He believed he was chosen by the gods. He ruled not as a man, but as a living deity. Every meal was a ritual, every bite an offering to himself. But his faith became his curse, because this king didn't just worship food, he worshipped himself, until his own greed devoured him alive. This is the story of the king who ate himself to death and thought he was a god. The royal hall glowed under candlelight. Golden goblets clinked, servants trembled, and the air reeked of roasted meat and wine. At the center of it all sat the king, enormous, red-faced, and dripping in silk. Before him stretched a table so long it disappeared into darkness. There were mountains of bread, rivers of wine, whole animals roasted to perfection, and he devoured them all, one after another, like a man possessed. Each time a servant slowed down, his voice would thunder through the hall, "Bring me more!" And no one dared disobey. He didn't eat to live. He lived to eat. He didn't feed his body. He fed his ego. Because to him, every bite was proof of his power, and deep down, he believed that as long as he feasted, he could never die. But this obsession didn't appear overnight. As a young prince, he was mocked for his size. Nobles whispered behind his back, calling him the Piglet Prince. Even his father sneered, saying, "A man who can't control his stomach can't control a kingdom." That humiliation cut deep. So when he finally became king, he made a vow. He would never feel small again. He filled his palace with gold, silk, and spices from across the world, and his dining table became his throne of revenge. He told his court, "When I eat, the gods eat through me," and everyone nodded because no one dared to disagree. Soon, they stopped calling him Your Majesty. They called him the Divine Eater. He wore robes embroidered with suns and stars. He painted his face with sacred oils, saying his reflection was the light of heaven. He built temples in his own image and filled them with priests who sang hymns to his appetite. He believed his body was holy. He believed his hunger was divine. When his belly grew huge and grotesque, he called it a blessing. When his breath came in wheezes, he said it was the breath of Olympus. But outside the palace, his people were starving. Fields lay dry. Families had no bread. Yet inside, his kitchens burned day and night, just to keep their god fed. One evening, when a cook failed to prepare his favorite dish, the king had him executed, and legend says his flesh was cooked and served at the royal table. As the king ate, he whispered, "The gods are pleased tonight." The night he died started like any other. The music played loud. The air was thick with honeyed wine and roasted swan. The king appeared, dressed in gold so heavy he could barely walk. He sat down and roared, "Tonight I dine as a god, and the gods have no limits." Terrified servants rushed in with endless trays of food. He ate and ate and ate. Whole ducks, bowls of cream, plates of sugared fruit, then loaves of bread, soaked in melted butter. Each swallow got slower, each breath heavier, but he refused to stop. At one point, his face went pale, his hands began to shake. A servant whispered, "Your Majesty, please rest." The king's eyes blazed. "Silence! Do not speak to your god!" And then he reached for one last platter. His body trembled, and he collapsed face first into his feast. The golden table became his tomb. When morning came, the palace was silent. No guards shouting, no music, no voices, just the buzz of flies circling a body on the throne. The once mighty king lay still. His silk robes were soaked in sweat and wine. His mouth still full of half-chewed meat, and carved into the golden table before him were his final words, "A god doesn't die, But he did, and when he did, his empire fell apart. The priests fled, the servants vanished, and the starving people, though the ones he had ignored, stormed the palace. They tore down his statues, burned his portraits, and melted his golden plates into coins. The god they once feared was now nothing more than a cautionary tale. History remembers conquerors, warriors, and wise kings. But this man, he's remembered for his appetite. He chased immortality through excess and found destruction instead. He wanted to be divine, but became a monster of his own making. They say his spirit still haunts the ruins of his palace, forever feasting, forever hungry, because some hungers never die. And maybe that's the true curse of power. When you start believing you're a god, you forget what it means to be human. So remember this, no matter how powerful a man becomes, if he can't control his hunger will control him.